Kayak Fishing Obsessed podcast. We'll be sitting down with a fresh guest each week. Someone who shares the same kayak fishing passion that runs through our veins. We're talking kayak anglers, kayak companies, lure experts. Heck, anyone who's got a story to tell about landing the big ones from a kayak. We're setting our sights on becoming the #1 kayak fishing podcast in the world. You'll get a chuckle, a grin, and hey, maybe even a belly laugh. Because we believe in the power of humor. But above all, we're here to educate and inspire. So, whether you're a seasoned kayak angler or just dipping your toes into this exhilarating world, join us on the Kayak Fishing Obsessed podcast. It's time to reel in adventure, camaraderie, and the joy of the catch. Here's your host, Darren Wendell.
What's up, you fish freaks? Welcome to podcast episode number 61 of the KFO show, Kayak Fishing Obsessed, brought to you by the Wendell Fishing YouTube channel. If you guys are listening in, not live right now or not on my YouTube channel, over 1,000 videos there. I put up daily shorts, daily community posts, weekly podcast, and 1 to 2 videos a week. I was actually out this morning in 18 degrees shooting one of those for you. So that's pretty exciting. Also, if you're not on YouTube, and you're on Facebook, I started a new community about 3 months ago, Kayak Fishing Freaks. And it's been growing like 1,000 members a week. And so pretty pumped about that. If you're over there, you can check it out at Kayak Fishing Freaks. If you're on live, I just threw that link in there. Love for you to join the fun over there. I'm excited because last week we kind of launched the Knucklehead. It starts in May. And if you're not yet a part of that, I'm sure Gramps and I, who's going to be on the show tonight, we're going to be talking about that a little bit more. So I'll skip over that one. If you're in on the March State Challenge series, I know I'm fishing that as well as for Hio. I have Robert Weicker. I don't know who that is, but I need to because he is on my heels. Second place with 92 inches and 95.25. And so, Robert, if you're on tonight, let me know. And Howard Lyons right behind him. So it's kind of exciting. If you're not part of the State Challenge series, highly encourage you to be a part of those. Just some fun. Fun to get out there. All right, enough of all that stuff. Let's welcome my guest tonight. One of my favorite guests. I've had, I think, Gramps on the most out of all other guests out there, mostly because I just like him, to be completely honest with you. So, Gramps, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing?
I am exhausted. Good night, everyone. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. See you next week at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the KFO show. Yeah, you took a drive today, brother, didn't you?
Yeah, we have had it's funny because my wife just walked into the garage and it says it smells like new kayaks in here. So yeah, we have been we've been on the road a little bit, had a little adventure over the weekend, took off Friday morning down to Alabama, first to the Red Crest Expo and competition, and oh my goodness, what a weekend.
We are going to get into that. I'm going to peel that onion back. That's for sure. So you were, how far did you drive this morning?
It's about, it's just, we left from KBF, did a landing. So, about 6 hours. So it's about
That's
a
not
normal.
too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad at all. So you were on the water when I was pestering you earlier in the day.
I was freezing, by the way, because it was snow on the ground and 18 degrees wind chill. Didn't catch a freaking thing, but I got a video shot, so that'll be coming out.
I'm talking about.
It's got to be a win, right? If you can't catch any fish, man, it was cold. My hands are still hurt from how cold it was this morning.
Oh, I feel you.
One of those cold mornings.
I have to say though, I'm completely jealous because I've literally only been fishing one time this year so far, once, and that was in the boat. And that was on a day that was like fishing in a tornado. The winds were so bad, but I can't complain. I caught a nice 3.5 pounder to start the year. Then I lost a 5 pounder at the boat. Then I broke my favorite rod, my chatterbait rod, because of a stinking catfish hand lining it in, and decided to snap the tip off of my favorite chatterbait rod.
Oh, no.
It was like win-win lose, but hey, we caught a fish and I can't complain. So I'm literally 1 for 1 for the season. And it was a pretty decent fish to start with. So Looking
yeah.
forward to getting kayaks rigged and on the water again as it starts to warm up a little bit here in the fourth winter in the Midwest.
My
Well, you've
water
been out
temperature here.
smoking the bass already, so I'm completely jealous, but I've been enjoying watching everybody else catch them.
Oh, heck yeah. That's what it's all about. Celebrating others as well. It's a lot of fun. Where do we start? Like, let's start with kayaks since you started there. You told me you had a bunch of fresh plastic you were pulling back from Huntsville. So tell me about that. I got two questions here because I noticed that you sold your old town and you moved over, I'm assuming the Bonafide. But you said multiple kayaks. You said kayaks this morning when I was talking to you on the phone.
Actually had 3 on the
3?
trailer
All
on
right.
the way
Tell me
home.
what's going on. Why'd you sell your old town? Why are you moving over to Bonafide? Why?
Did you see the new Old Town collaboration with Berkeley that happened to release today?
I did not. What's happening? What is going on? Give me the juice. You're just laughing over there.
I'm trying to remain somewhat respectful for the company that I've represented for the last year and a half.
I want zero respect. Just give it to me straight. Keep it real, baby. What we got?
So you've been fishing for a while. You've no doubt seen like some previous Berkeley baits. Say, think back like 6-7 years, like the Fire Tiger swim baits.
Okay.
Looks like sherbet pops with like the little gill. I thought it was April Fool's Day. I didn't know what day it was. They partnered up with Berkeley and made a Fire Tiger autopilot and things.
What? I gotta bring this
I'm
up.
not kidding. I mean, I wish I was kidding. I love the quality and craftsmanship of the Old Town kayaks. I always will recommend that brand to new anglers. But even as a member of the pro staff the last 18 months, some of my complaints and feedback were honest feedback. And, I was all about, let's move things forward, because you watch, companies like Native and Bonafide listen to their customers and make changes and improvements and release new models.
Yeah.
I've given feedback over the years for how they can make the Sportsman better, where you could maybe add a motor to it or add some various track and other things. And honestly, Native and Bonafide have been listening to their customers, and each year have, improved on models they've released.
Yeah.
And, last year, Old Town dropped the EPDL on the world, which, is interesting technology wise. It didn't really agree with the model they chose since it was an older model, but, for those guys that fish out in the ocean and salty, I get it. Wasn't something I'd put somebody that I know in. It was, because it's not for me. It's not for bass fishing. But I've made several suggestions for things they can improve on with the Sportsman line that I've known and loved and I've promoted the last several years.
A lot. Yeah. You love that thing.
But, what did they do? They gave us new colors over and over and over again. And they no doubt have done that yet again. I saw a promo the other day where I saw some, red, white, and blue, puffy clouds. I'm like, they're going to release a new color again. And this one's going to look like, a sherbet blow pop.
Oh my gosh. And I'm looking at it right now, by the way. Orange on the back, bright yellow with the little Fire Tiger stripes on the front. It is loud.
Very. I mean, how many do you think they're going to sell? How many of those do you think they're going to sell across the nation?
That 6? Color is super desirable. Like in a yeah. I don't think it's super desirable unless you're like freaked out that a boat's going to hit you and you want something where the world can see you and they can see you from the moon. That might be the color for you. I don't know.
I mean, I can see all of our Berkeley, pro staffers being very, very
crap out of it.
So yeah, my brother and I both decided that, I had an option to remain with the pro staff this year, but I mean, to be real, you and I and several others, we'd like to create content, especially in the kayak space. Again, I'm still trying to get over the fact that I thought this was an April Fool's joke, and then I realized it's still a month, weeks away from the first.
Nope.
But apparently it's a collaboration they did with Berkeley, and I don't know. I mean, like I said, I will always recommend the Sportsman line, pedal power, paddle across the board. Find the color that suits you. It's a good boat. They're quality boats. Their warranty is above reproach. Find the color that you like, and I'll leave it at that. People will know forever that I trust and still do trust my life, which means I also trust the lives of other folks my age or veterans, or maybe those aren't as abled as many others. 100%, I can trust my life and yours in an Old Town, and always will.
Yeah.
But that being said, with us being content creators, I didn't want to be married to a brand.
Right.
I achieved a goal, knowing that I had sold probably more Old Towns over the last 3 years than a lot of their Bass pros, because their pros are meant to go fish tournaments and win tournaments, and I just gave my honest opinion and left it at that. But again, I wanted to try some different things, and as you well know, the smallmouth is like my latest obsession, and I wanted a kayak that I could put a motor on, and if you get into a faster river and you have to deal with current, which we experienced last year, and my autopilot couldn't keep up. I mean, there was a couple times I was on 10 and having to paddle as hard as I could to kind of get out of some current. So I wanted the flexibility to be able to what I call build a boat. Now, my first option was the Native Titan X, the new one, when they dropped it, because I was like, ooh, that's. But then 2 months later, Old Town, or 2 months later, Bonafide dropped that Power 129, and I'm like, that's it. That is my build a boat kayak right there. I like the fact that it's 89 pounds empty.
Yeah.
And I can take it out of the back of the truck, drag it down a creek with nothing but a paddle and a couple of rods, and drop it into a creek and go fish however I like. If I want to go, one of my goals this year is to go up to the Susquehanna River. So I'd like to put a motor on the back of it and be able to deal with that and, play in that current. But I also fish a lot of lakes that I want to be able to spot lock and fish offshore, so I can drop an XI3 on the front of it and play that game as well. So for me, the Bonafide Power 129, after, watching Fluke Master and Chad Hoover and many others that fish, at a high level, moved to that kayak. Russ Snyder's national champion in both. He's won everything there is to win, is now in, a Bonafide PWR 129. And, there's several others. So I'm like, this is something I'm going to play with. So after much discussion with my brother, we decided we're both going to sell our Old Towns.
Oh, wow.
You
guys go wholesale.
So we're both moving. So with that, I also had sold my Old Town paddle kayak, because we, like I said, we want to play around with some other stuff. So I ended up picking up an RS 117 from Mr. Hoover, since he just refreshed his fleet. And that'll be one that one of my sons use, or a fellow veteran, will have another kayak. And eventually I'll probably add maybe like a Crescent Shoaly or something else to the fleet as a third kayak, just to have like a small fleet we can take other veterans, friends, family, whoever we want, to go out and try kayak fishing maybe for the first time. So
heck yeah,
that's kind of the goal there. So
got to have that buddy kayak. I mean, we all have this, at least if you haven't gone through this yet, if you're new to kayak fishing, you get a kayak and then you're like, oh, I'm going to buy a second one. I'm going to sell the old one so I can put it toward the new one. But you end up buying the second first, and you never get around to selling that other one to recoup the money. And then you start building a fleet, and it starts getting out of control from there. Hey, we got some comments over here, JT. I want to look at. Daniel Pierce said they listen to their customers, just not the right ones. There you go. Caro said, no thanks on that color. Josh Lanham, Eco Fishing only has 4 available, so I'm guessing there won't be many. Liz is not allowed as that purple eyesore the new canoe made.
Yeah, and we're gonna see Liz in that purple one here real soon.
I love it. Bucktail, that rocket pop color sounds louder than the sun. So Bonafide made a, if you remember that, they called it, what'd they call it? Venom. They color. That was loud as well. I see those on Facebook Marketplace going for a steal. Oh man, I don't know what it
That's
is.
the color
Why
of
did
the
they go loud?
spinnerbait you should be throwing.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. So why'd you roll home with 3? You, your brother, what's the third
Mine, my
for?
brothers, and then the third, which is the buddy kayak. Yep.
Oh, man, you went all in. I love it. I
Yep.
love it.
Well, I
Bonafide
mean,
made this
Chad
sick kayak.
had one there that he was, like I said, he just refreshed his whole fleet with the Power 129s. He's still got a couple SS 127s, and plus he added 2 RVR 119s to his fleet. So he's got plenty, and he was like, I'll give you a deal on this one. You take it and have it as another one. And then there's something that he'll be working on as a future project, which we're not talking about yet, but I'll probably have one of those as well. So we shall see what comes down the road from Mr. Hoover.
I love it. So if you haven't been and I have no affiliation with Bonafide, I just like it a whole lot. My P127, I put a motor on the back of that, NK 180. It rolls at 4.5 miles an hour, which I was impressed by.
Isn't that
That's
incredible?
fully loaded for me. I was like, man, I don't need to go any faster than that. But Bonafide makes a solid yak. If you haven't been into one, if you're out there looking for a second yak, can't say anything. Well, I'm doing a review on the PWR because I was at the Columbus Expo, and Dustin, I believe is his name, from Raccoon Creek Outfitters, just walked me through the whole kayak. So that's coming out here soon. But nonetheless, good times. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. JT, what were you down there just for Red Crest?
So, well, the goal was, we knew that Chad picked up the kayaks a couple weeks ago. So I could have went down a couple weeks ago to pick him up. But he's like, hey, Red Crest is coming. I know it won't give you as much time to rig and get ready for the national championship coming up, but I'm going to have a booth down at Red Crest. And if you want to come and, work the booth with us, you're more than, welcome. And
oh, nice.
I was like, yeah, we can't say no to that because, we love we love both. I mean, obviously we love the classic and but we knew the classic was out of reach this year because it's the weekend before the national championship. But since we had to roll down to Alabama to pick up our kayaks anyway, and Red Crest was going on just an hour south of there at Lay Lake in Birmingham, how could we not go? And I mean, oh my goodness, it was freaking awesome. I mean, I have a lot of people say, oh, it's not the Bassmaster Classic Expo. You can't compare them. They're not. I don't care. I'll tell you, one of the great benefits about it not being the Bassmaster Classic is the Major League Fishing pros have all kinds of time to talk to you if you're not, if they're not on the water.
Right.
So either the guys who didn't qualify that were there, or the guys that were going to be at the Classic the following week, were there representing like Bass Pro Shops and some of the other sponsors. I mean, Darren, I'm telling you,
I saw your photos, man. It was like the who's who of.
You can't just walk
goats
up and talk to KVD anywhere else for like 10 or 15 minutes without, walking up in. I mean, like I said, we went to the Classic year before. You wanted to talk to Jacob Wheeler or one of the pros, you're in line an hour.
Wow.
Or more. I mean, we were in line for an hour and a half, and I was literally sitting on the floor scooching just to talk to Bill Dance. I got to talk to Roland Martin.
Right.
I got to talk. We saw Jimmy Houston, Ott Defoe. I mean, there were so many that we didn't even take, pictures with. You get caught up, and it's like, I'm sitting here talking to this dude, and it was incredible. I mean, it was.
How'd you get that much time?
Because there's just, honestly, Red Crest is still new. This is what, the 4th or 5th one.
Yeah.
It's nowhere near as big as the Bassmaster Expo yet. So you don't draw those major crowds yet. And, if you've got a few hundred people walking around in the expo versus a few thousand,
right?
You have unlimited time with, I mean, it's so funny. I'm sitting here. Andy Montgomery got eliminated after the second day. And so on day 3, when they're going out working on the 3rd day cut line to see who's going to be the final 10, I'm literally sitting here chatting and watching the big screen on live with Andy Montgomery talking about skipping reels and Strike King and loose stuff. And, we're just having a conversation, and it's just like, and then Dustin Connell goes on like just a tear and catches, I don't know, 30 pounds in 20 minutes. And I'm sitting here with Andy Montgomery, and we're just like in awe of what I said. That dude sure can find him. And he's like, he does. And it's incredible. But I'm like, this is with Andy Montgomery. I'm standing here talking. We're watching this with Andy Montgomery. I mean, and it was just like that with so many different people. My friend Matt rolled down with us, one of our Freedom Squad members.
Yeah.
And he's big into Major League Fishing. So he knows, there's a couple of guys that are former Army veterans. And so Matt knew this, and he's like, we got to go find these guys, just talk about Freedom Squad. And so we literally sit there. We're talking to Jeff Sprague, who had been in a military policeman in the Army and, gotten out, and he had saved up his money because he's like, I'm going to spend a year of my life trying to become a bass pro. And he did. It was so funny because we're sitting here in full on conversation with him. And I have a young teenager walk up with me and goes, can I get a picture with you? And I'm like, oh,
you?
I'm like, let me get out of the way. You want a picture with Jeff? And he's like, no, you're fishing with Gramps. Jeff and Matt are over here rolling that I have somebody who knows me.
I love it, man.
Who knows me and wants a picture. And I'm like, and Matt's just laughing. He's just like, yeah, here we go. And I was like, he's like, yeah, he does YouTube and this and that. And I'm just like, it was such a blessing, dude. It was really, really cool. I mean, I had one kid, younger, probably 5 or 6 years old, with a hat, walk up, wanted my autograph. And I'm just grinning ear to ear. And, Matt and Chad are just having a hoot. Just, it's just, sometimes, there's a lot of guys that watch my channel that are parents or grandparents.
Yeah.
And so, they'll sit there and watch, the nonsense that we, when we're playing on the water and doing the tournaments and stuff. But it was just so cool. It's so much fun at events like that. But again, that's why sometimes those smaller, since Major League Fishing's the newer kid on the block, you just get that much more exposure to all of these, all of these pros. It was awesome.
I'm going to stop for a second and kind of tip my hat to you, because the reason he came up to you is because you taught him things, right? Which is pretty awesome. You've taken the time. You think a lot of these new kids, individuals, who knows, anybody, they may not learn from the pros because they're not accessible. They can't ask the pros questions. They're not going to respond to them. But they do. And so, man, that's just a lot of time and effort. I know you just have a love for anybody who wants to learn. So I know for you, it's a humbling experience. But tip my hat to you, Gramps. That's awesome, brother. That is awesome.
It was really cool. I mean, we saw Bass Geek there. He was working down with his boat sponsor, Camus. And so I went down and shot some video with him. And then he came up later to the KBF booth, and, we did some stuff. But I mean, we just got to talk to all kinds of, I'm going to have some awesome guests coming up on live streams real soon that still just blow me away. It was completely incredible.
That's awesome. So when you get to talk to a pro, what do you talk? Do you talk to KVD? What do you talk to these guys about?
Honestly, it's just, I thank them for their years of education, kind of laying everything out there on the line. I mean, the funny thing is I don't get intimidated like maybe some people would.
Sure.
I'm 55. I mean, I'm just going to talk to you like you're anybody else. And I think they understand that and they get that, because I don't, fanboy or gawk or stargaze. There are, when you kind of talk to somebody man to man, it's easier that way versus somebody who's like in shock and awe. So, I mean, a lot of times it's just like with KVD, I was like, are you all ready for to start working on your new TV show? It's like, because the cool thing was he actually had his KVD Foundation booth right behind the KVD or the KBF booth. And, so they were doing some charity stuff, and, I went over and donated and got like a little Yeti tumbler that's got his logo engraved in it. And Matt did a donation where he got one of his signed jerseys and things like that. But, it's like I told him, I said, I've still got your book, which is sitting up on that shelf up there that he signed back like 1990 something.
Okay.
And I said, I've still got your book that you signed for us when my son was, yay small. And, I've taken a lot of that, and it's been fun watching your career progress. And I said, I'm glad you're to the point now where it can stop being I have to be respectful saying it can stop being as much work, because I know shooting a TV show is a lot of work. I said, but at least you'll be able to enjoy it a little more.
Right.
And enjoy your retirement while you're filming a new TV show. But, you know, I see you really increased your YouTube presence, which is really good because I think, you know, like you did with us, sharing your knowledge in paperback back then, you being able to create more content that's easier to digest for the younger generation, especially with the technology that's changed over the years. I said it'll be really cool to watch how you're kind of welcomed into the new generation is going to learn from you maybe in a way that they wouldn't now that you're going to be more accessible via YouTube, So I said it's going to be really cool, but
Yeah.
It was almost hard seeing, Roland Martin being as old and sage as he is, knowing that, man, these guys that taught us are kind of getting up there, in years now, and it's like
Right.
it's something, but it was cool to really be able to. I mean, realistically, I've met every person except I ran into Hank Parker at the Classic, so I have met and shook hands with KVD, Bill Dance last year, Hank Parker last year, and then Jimmy Houston and Roland Martin. They were all on my checklist, so it was really kind of cool. And then some of the younger pros, like being able to talk to Andy Montgomery and Ott Defoe and some of the other guys. It was really cool. We did not stay after for the trophy presentation because honestly we were wore out. I really wanted to go get my Crush City hat signed by DC.
Right.
But I knew we would be there for like 3 hours or so. I was like, maybe in a future event, I'll catch up with him. But being there when he won it and all that was still really cool.
That's awesome. I was just thinking about this. Like I'll be going to some event here in 20 years, 30 years with my kids, and we'll see KVD there, and we'll be like, oh, my daughter will take over the Wendell Fishing because I got to be done with it. She'll be the new Wendell Fishing, and she'll be talking about KVD like we're talking about.
Yeah, 100%.
It's crazy. It's just crazy to think about it. But it'll be the people we grew up on, which is, well, I grew up on. You're older than I am a little bit.
Yeah, a couple years.
Let's switch gears here. The theme of the show tonight is let's get tactical a little bit. It's kind of fun. Entering into spring, a lot of us, at least up here, not all y'all down south, but up north, up here in the north, we have been freezing the last few months, and we have just been thinking. I've been talking with friends. We've been like getting our baits ready, just thinking through just being out there on the water again. And so right now, I know my water temperature has been going up all the way to 47, and this morning it was 44. So I'm kind of in this 44 or 47 degree temperature. I have a lot easier time catching fish in the 47, 48. Obviously, when it gets warmer, those bass get less lethargic. But for those of us here in this area, because I'm kind of almost, the same line as you, just for fun, what are the bass doing right now? And let's talk about the top five spring lures that you would be pulling out if you were going fishing tomorrow.
Well, what they're doing is they're transitioning obviously from those deeper holes, spawn won't be too far off. And generally it seems like in the Midwest, we go from spring to warm to third winter to warm to rain to tornadoes to fourth winter, which is where we're at now.
That's right.
And so the water temps, they keep bouncing around, but they're moving out of those deeper holes. They're staging off of points in creek channel swings, and I don't know
something just fell.
I got something falling around over here, but who knows? I think one of my boards back there. But they're transitioning. So the funny thing is, they're all they're moving from deep water to shallower water, and it changes quite a bit. But you got to kind of hunt around for them. If you're a bank fisherman right now, you don't want to be anywhere near a lake. You want to be in a creek. You want to be like on a river edge or something, because it's easier for those fish to pop out of the deeper holes up into shallower water and then back in as they play around. So this is really the time of year to be chasing smallmouth, because I've seen a lot of smallmouth caught around Indiana right now. The largemouth are, like I said, they're starting to move out of the deep. They're still probably suspended. If you've been watching, You've watching a lot of the pros fishing the tournaments. They're all pretty much all down south, and they're right there at that. Like in Alabama, they were in that pre-spawn, getting ready, and the guys kept dipping from deeper water out and then into shallow trying to find fish. So I guess the first bait that I'm throwing this kind of time of year while the water is still cold is a good old jerk bait.
There it is.
You might have to, if you're in a kayak and you've got a depth finder, you might be trying to figure out if you need a deeper diving jerk bait or shallower, suspending, just, rip, long pause is one of those things. And I've got, several that I play with, based on, watercolor. You got a kind of a little more, white or a bone. You might get some that are more of a perchy kind of color. One of the ones I'm really looking forward to playing with this year is one of the Shimano ones that's got that flash boost in it.
Ooh.
And it's
I see that glittering
in it, rockets back and forth and throws it some
shake that
throws
again.
some flash.
For those who are not, listening and watching live, go ahead and shake that again because it was glimmering.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So anybody watching the live, you can see, the little blade inside of it just shimmer. And that throws up like a reflection as if a bait fish was moving in the water. But again, still real slow, twitch, long pause, and, letting them go. And I like a lot of the jerk baits from 6th Sense. Their colors are really good. The Mega Bass are probably some of the most popular ones. And the one with the flash boost is a new offering from Shimano. They came out with, I think it was last year, but those are really popular this time of year. Now I know a lot of people throw A-rigs as well. That's not really something I get into, but I know there's a lot of people that catch a lot of fish off of A-rigs because it mimics a small, school of bait fish, and it's another good way to draw out a bunch of, a lot of really good strikes.
Yeah. Really quick before you move on to the next one. Let us know what are your top 5 if you're listening in right now live. What are your top 5 lures that if you had to go fishing tomorrow, what would those be? And we'll read those off in a little bit as Gramps runs through number 2.
All right, next number 2, staying in the whole shad line, if you will, a lipless crankbait. I try various colors depending on the water stain. I try to mimic a shad if I can, but it's got rattles in it. Sometimes that red, it seems like the red eye shad, like from Strike King, anything in red colors, as you get closer towards that 55-degree water temp, a lot of people think that like crawfish, they kind of stay buried. They don't really hibernate that much. The 55-degree water temp that a lot of people hear about, that's when crayfish start turning an orange color in various spots in the Midwest. And I actually did a video on it last year, but I pulled up some like Indiana crawfish, and they get this like bright orange tint. And what that comes around is that's their mating season. That's when they're looking for love. So that's why that red really comes out, and all the bass know this. So it's about that 54, 55-degree water temp is when that really starts banging in. So, I mean, I really go through trying to find, I'll throw different lipless, and I'll generally run down like a rocky bank. So if you've got if you're in a kayak and you're running along a bridge that's got a lot of riprap in it, that's where I'll throw a lipless a whole lot. Crawfish love those rocks. They love the sun that hits the rocks and it heats it up a little more. And then those crawfish will be crawling along them quite a bit. But that's a good place to target. And then bass will also push any bait fish around, up, kind of into those rocks too. But the lipless is one of my other favorites.
Is the Strike King, the red-eyed shad, is that your favorite, or do you have a particular brand? And
the Strike King red eye shad's really good. I think the ones that I were kind of showing on the screen are the 6th Sense. I never remember their names, but it's the 6th Sense. I really, really come to love a lot of the 6th Sense baits. Their owner, he was a college champion who could have gone pro, but he started designing baits in college and started painting them for other people. And he's like, I could go try to be a professional, or I can start my professional business life. And I think his professional business life has really turned out well for him. Because their color patterns are just phenomenal. So I'm a big fan of Strike King as well. I actually worked to get Strike King into American Legacy Fishing,
Oh, nice.
just because.
Go ahead and go on to number 3, and after number 3, we'll go over here. People are still throwing them in there, and we'll walk through these.
Okay. Number 3 is my favorite handy dandy first fish of the year this year. Is a square bill. This one is one that will be no stranger to anybody who follows my channel. I have been a big fan of the 6 Cents Crush 100X. There's a few different sizes, but a square bill is number 3. Obviously, my favorite in the stained water is the Chartreuse Black Back. There are several, which I don't remember where I stuck them. I've got several in shad patterns. A bright red is another good choice, but just something to bang off the rocks or the bottom in that 3 to 5 foot range. Man, it's hard to beat a square bill this time of year. And some people, throw silent ones. Some people throw them with rattles. It seems like my fish don't really care one way or the other, whether it's silent or not. If I don't get a bite off of one, I've actually had good success off of, silent ones with no rattles. I just kind of mix it up until, I kind of figure out what they want that day. But, a square bill has been very good to me. And it was funny because the last 2 years, as much as I love throwing a chatterbait, my first fish seem for now I guess that makes it 3 years in a row now. My first fish of each year has been off of a square bill. The 2 years ago it was a silent one, and the last 2 years it's been this Chartreuse Black Back, because it seems like every place I fish, the water is either blown out and muddy and stained because of all the crazy changing weather we get. And that color just nails them for me. I don't know why.
Huh. Well, I got a ton of comments here. Let's rip through these. These are individual. This is fun. Let's see if we can find some trends in the midst of what everybody uses here in the spring. Today is March 19th. For those listening in, you may be listening in a couple months from now. Let's hear what everyone has to say. The Outdoor Conquest says jerkbait, jointed jerkbait, crankbait, jerkbait. I love it. I believe he is in Michigan, so we kind of know where he stands. Mainstream Fishing. See what your man has to say. Underspin, jerkbait, crankbait, lipless, and finesse jig. All right. Throwing the finesse jig. I like it. The Outdoor Conquest says, and a glide. He added the glide in there. So he went 6, even though 4 of them were jerkbait. Sly Fox says, has you seen that new Great Lakes finesse crawl tube? I think it's going to be a smallie killer. I haven't. Gramps, you seen that?
I haven't seen that one, but my good friends at Secret Lures have been making a crawl tube for the last 3 years. And that's one I really haven't really kind of divulged, but since it's kind of out there.
You just he let out the juice, folks. He's reaching, if you're listening in, he's reaching in his bag of goodies. What do you got for us there, Gramps? While you're reaching in there, I'll keep reading. He's got it.
I guess that was one of those funny little secret baits that I picked up, and I kind of keep that one to myself.
until right now. We all have those kind of to ourselves. We'll see that in just a moment. A couple people chimed in. Outdoor Conquest said, my absolute favorite bait to throw with forward-facing sonar is a jerkbait. Watching them stalk it and dialing in the perfect cadence is key. All right, I like it. Who's your hook setter? Chatterbait, number 1. Number 2, drop shot. Okay. Number 3, lipless. There's a trend here. Number 4, jerkbait. There's a trend. Number 5, a Ned rig. I like it. Great. Cold weather presentations there. New Hampshire fishing gal, Tammy. Tammy, what do you got to say over here? Jerkbait. And she's from up northeast. And she got finesse jig.
Yeah, so we know she's still in the cold.
Yeah, she's cold. Like still ice, maybe cold. We got lipless, flat-sided crank, and the Ned. Tammy, I'm with you there on some of those. Bass Raft, breaking out the shaky head. Got the wacky rig, the 3-inch tube, a jerkbait, and a crankbait. Scott Hanneman, Mr. Twister. All right. Rebel Crawdad. Someone's fishing rivers. Nico Helgramite. Guarantee you, Scott's fishing for smallies in the rivers. And then
I bet he's
Elizabeth,
chasing them in creeks. Yep.
Elizabeth says, my spring baits are top secret. Y'all can fend for yourselves. You're welcome. I love it. Keeping it to yourself. That's cool. That's all right. And then
well, we already know that she's in shorts and
Yeah, I
70
know.
plus degree weather in her state as well. So Liz is already,
Florida.
you know, she's working on a tan and running from gators.
She's hammering down on some massive bass as well. She threw up a 24 or 25 this past week from the bank or something. I don't know. I stopped.
Yeah.
I had a buddy text me this morning. He's like, I'm going to not be a part of all these bass fishing Facebook groups that I'm on because I'm tired of seeing everybody in the South catch these absolute freaking monsters.
We just got to follow everybody up north so we can feel better about ourselves.
There we go. Elizabeth said it was a 23. Elizabeth, she'd have let the lure just hang out there, right? 24, 25. Yeah. Bring it back to reality. 23. Still a freaking pig. All right, Gramps, back to you. Number 4. Do you have a number 4 for us?
All right. Number 4, I think, was mentioned a few times. And notice I've actually got these hooked up to rods. But again, I've got an underspin tied on. This is the new Crush City Whale with a VMC underspin. I think throwing something like an underspin with a nice slow paddle tail or even a mag draft if you want something a little bigger. Just again, the big thing is right now the fish are lethargic, so are the bait fish. You just don't, you're not really looking for something super fast, and a paddle tail that you can draw across with an underspin, to bring in a little bit of flash, but still keep it kind of slow. Give them a chance to kind of look at it and chase it down. And, maybe a little bit bigger meal too. So, an underspin or a mag draft, some kind of slow, big, yummy bait, that they know that they're going to be burning energy to pursue, so that you want to make it worth their while as well. So if they feel like it's a little bit bigger and, chomping, then they're still going to come get it. It won't be long before they're chasing everything as they get to pre-spawn, but you're going to wait till the water temp gets up a little warmer than where we're at now.
Mayhem for us. All right, let me see here. Elizabeth said that 23 was from the bank with a wacky worm. Love it.
Wacky worm.
Scott Hanneman says 47 degree big smallies are on right now. Slow and light. That's what he's using to catch those in. I believe Scott's in, I think he's in PA. Either that or Wisconsin. Man, I can't remember. Stephen Guthrie Fishing says, don't sit on throwing a number 6 shad wrap. All right.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
All kinds of juice. All right, we're coming down to number 5, Grams. What do you got for us for your 5th and final?
Now, this one, in the past, growing up for decades and years, one of the good baits that's when you're starting to speed things up was a big Colorado bladed spinnerbait. And if you got real stained water, you would maybe grab a black one or a black and blue with a black Colorado blade on it to get that big thump, 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 thump in the water. If it's a little clearer, you'll see a lot of chartreuse and white big blade or big blade, Colorado blades. But the last couple of years, some of the biggest fish and the biggest fish I've caught of the year have come on the big blade chatterbait.
All right.
And so it kind of, you think of the same premise as those Colorado blade spinner baits. This chatterbait, this big blade one, oh my goodness, like a 6-3 gear ratio, fish slow. And again, Jeremy and I were on my favorite lake that's on the base that I worked a couple years ago. And it rained, the creeks were blowing it out. It was muddy. It was like that orange soupy color from all the mud running into the water. And we got onto a pattern where it was either black and blue jigs that we were more swimming or this big blade. I mean, and they would hit this thing like they were mad. So, a big black and blue with like a Yamamoto Seiko, or like this one I have, it's more of a green pumpkin blue with a 6 cents flush on the back to give it a bigger profile. It just gives them more to kind of target and more to see. And again, a kind of a little bit bigger bite for them that really want to. But I mean, man, when I was pulling this thing through the water, and it seems just like this big thump it was like it was making them mad, and they would just slam this thing. And it was, it's amazing. So it's kind of something I kept kind of quiet a little bit earlier in the past, but I'm such a fan of the big blade. It's not even funny. And I'll throw this on a little bit heavier, jackhammer chatterbait rod. I want that Dobbins 736 CB glass where it's a heavy action glass rod. And I mean, they try to tear this thing out of your hand. It's insane. If I have a more stained water, like this one here is kind of a green pumpkin with a bluegill colored flush, I will get a black and blue one, and I'll put one of these Z-Man DZ minnows in the deal color, which it's more of like a blue, like you're mimicking like a bluegill kind of a pattern. They try to kill this thing. It's not even funny.
And there it is, folks. Your top 5. I love it. There's some comments over here. Let's head back over to here while you're chit-chatting. Cooler Lit AP 120 says snow in the forecast for the weekend. Yeah, it is not going to get warmer anytime soon, at least for me, for the rest of March. So I'm really hoping right now in the tournaments that my 95.25 holds. I have a feeling that it won't. There's a lot of people fishing down south in Ohio going to catch up with me. This didn't get mentioned in hardly anybody's comments. And Sly Fox Fishing says spinnerbait, baby. I was like, all right. All right.
He's throwing a spinnerbait. It don't matter what time of year it is.
No, it was freaking ice on the water, and he's throwing a spinnerbait.
He's dragging it across the top of the ice, trying to entice him to come up and smash through and grab it. We know how it goes.
Sly Fox, you were predictable. That's for sure. Scott Hanneman's like, hey, gonna try to check out the chatters this year. 50 plus water earlier. There we go. And Brian Rand, appreciate these comments, brother. Hello, everyone. JT and Darren, good evening. Learning quite a bit. Well, that's what this is all about, folks. Maybe to get an idea, maybe something that you're not typically a go-to for you in the spring. And I'm kind of keeping mine quiet, not for the sake of, hey, I don't want to share it with anybody. For the sake of it, I just shot that video this morning on the water. I'll share one of my 5. And it's one I've had the most luck with. And if you follow the channel, you already know what it is. But if you don't follow the channel, I've caught this past March an 18, 18, 18, 19, and 20 on this bait, which is the 8-inch mag draft. And I'm telling you what, guys, I wish I had it here to show you, but it is a pretty big bait, and it's kind of an expensive bait. The 8-inch run around $25. And what I love about it is that when nice slow roll, you got to work that thing painfully slow, because if you roll it too fast, it'll spin over and kind of roll on you. You don't want that. And why it's so great during this time of the year, because it's just really slow moving bait, and the head bobbles 10 and 2, and the tail does this. It just imparts an incredible action. And when you get bit on an 8-inch lure, it'll like rip the pole out of your hands. It's been a ton of fun. I picked up the 10-inch as well. Also an expensive bait. The thing runs around 35, and I had to put a trailer hook on it. The thing's so freaking long. I haven't caught one on that yet. I've only had about 45 minutes with it on the water. But the 8-inch mag draft, the color that I like is either I believe it's the pearl. The one I've had the most luck on, I think, is the black something shad. It's like the next closest to the pearl. It's not a black top. It's almost like a blue hue on the top of it. I'm telling you what, man, that has caught me absolute monsters in March. And I'll have this thing on 20-pound fluoro on my ledge rod, which is a 7.9, all the way through May, because Bass has slammed it last year, and I brought it down early, and they continue to slam it this year. But I'll be posting this video soon, top 5 lures for April, and I'm not going to give away the rest, but nonetheless, wanted to share that one, because if you have not tried that yet, because a lot of these I've been noticing in the comments, finesse jigs, a lot of people like to go small, and for whatever reason, pull out put a large bait, put a large glide into you, especially if it's an unconfidence bait for you. I always say, carry an unconfidence
That's
bait
one of those
until you
this year
figure
that
it
I'm
out.
really going to focus on is throwing that mag draft.
Oh man, once you're on them, you're on them. And I'm typically
I've
running
heard.
that. Yeah, well, I'm usually running that in deeper water, right? It has a drawing power to it. And so what I've been
Yeah.
catching them on is I'm throwing it over anywhere from 8 to 17 feet of water. And they just come
Okay,
up for
got
it.
you.
And the great thing about it, if you let it sit, it'll kind of just do a dive. And so it'll sink pretty fast. And so if you can see them on your forward facing sonar, or if you did a round and you know where they're suspended, you can drop those things right in front of them. Man, so much fun.
Now, speaking of forward facing, should we talk about the only bait that you need to win the Bassmaster Classic and or the Red Crest? You know,
Yes, we
the
should.
Gussie jig head minnows or
All right.
the Dustin Cannell jig head minnows. Because according to the internet,
All
if you
right.
have a jig head minnow and forward facing, you will win the Bassmaster Classic and Red Crest. It's
That's
cheating.
it.
It's right here. This is all you need right here. To spin a sissy stick, forward facing, and either one of these. It's just all you need.
I love that you've bought them both. You were ready to go. You don't even have it forward facing, do you? Not yet. You
So
getting it?
back prior to me joining the Old Town Pro staff, which, you know, Johnson Outdoors, you're part of Minn Kota, Old Town, and Humminbird, right? So when I joined the pro staff, I sold my beloved Garmin Live Scope to my buddy Bobby, who has been using
Okay.
it since, and then I bought the Humminbird Helix 10 with the Mega Live. And I really never I never really got the forward facing, whatever, dialed in and all that.
Right.
But when I decided I was going to build a new kayak, I picked up from American Legacy Fishing my new Garmin Ultra 2 and the
All right.
LBS 34.
You're
So
going all out in
we're
this
going back
thing.
to Garmin. We're going back to Garmin, and we're actually going to see if all of the hatred on the internet is true. Can Gramps use the modern technology, being a technology guy?
Yeah,
Can I
you're
go
an IT
hack
guy.
the fish code and catch PBs with jighead minnows? So we're going to try at
And I'm
some
gonna
point,
watch.
maybe later in the summer, after I get done throwing a chatterbait and wacky rig all spring along,
That's right, baby. That's right.
because we know what I'm throwing: chatterbaits and Senkos.
Heck yeah. Love those Senkos. I made my own this year. And
I
I
saw that.
shove
Yes,
those.
it's
I'm
excellent.
surprised they even when I pick them up, they don't fall apart. I have so much freaking salt in there. I mean,
Oh,
an
dude. Yeah.
insane amount. And so it's good. I got all my favorite colors, all my variations. So I poured myself some straight black, which is hard to find like on the shelves.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to get those out there. I have 500 of them. So I'm good. Good to go. All right, folks.
That's a lot of, yeah, that'll
Yeah,
be
it's a
nice
lot.
though. And it's fun when you can actually reuse, you know, because I know you're like me. You use them and then you save them and you can melt them down and do them again.
Absolutely.
And then it makes it awesome because then you can also melt them into different shapes and things like that too, just depending on what mold you get. And it's a fun way to kill the winter time as well. I mean, it's really cool to have something to do in the wintertime. Now, Jeremy is who I transferred all my stuff to because I spent all my time editing, and he's now moved in his own place down here by me. So he's been our bait maker. But yeah, I got to get him moved in. And now that he's finished moving, he's going to be making baits, and we're going to have a lot of fun this year. That is for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I bought probably 8 molds this winter. That was my I tried to do one thing during a winter just to kind of
Yep.
dive into it. This year it was bait making. So I probably have 800 baits of crawls and trick worms and wacky worms and variations of it. So I'm pumped. It'll be good. And I tell you what, I've already caught fish, and there's nothing like the feeling of,
Yes.
remelts, got your own color dialed in, got your own salt content dialed in, and then going out there and catching something with it. It's like, oh, it's almost like a catch and cook, like from beginning to end.
Yep.
So it's fun.
I mean, it was
fun to
I
do
think
that.
it was the year before last in the wintertime. It was maybe the day after Christmas, I think, that I went and I caught a fish at a power plant lake on a tube that I poured that was a
Yeah.
remelt on a hook that lead that I poured on that. It was like my own, and I was like, that was the first, thing that I did with Do It Molds, and it was really cool. And it's like I caught a fish on my thing day after Christmas in the middle of winter on a power plant lake. And I honestly, that's what's really killed me about not having a kayak all winter is I just couldn't do any of that stuff. So Gramps is so ready to get back on the water, dude. I am hurting bad. We were going to go fish with Chad yesterday, but the wind was so terrible you couldn't even think about getting on the water. So yeah, it was just a day of chilling and packing up and getting ready to come back home. But it was still awesome. But yeah, I can't wait to go get after him.
Yeah. Here's a couple comments over here. Low Life says Darren has a killer. Where's that at? Trailer mold. I do. It comes from Bass Tackle. I can't wait to throw that bad boy on a chatterbait or a big blade. It kind of looks like a Zako, a little bit thicker. Excited about that. Elizabeth, you did pass up a good deal. She saw on the marketplace ad where this dude was selling 20 plus do it mold for $300. She's like, I should have taken the 3-hour drive. Yeah, you could only get like, if you bought them MSRP, you'd only get like 6 of them. So 20 plus molds for $300.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Ooh, someone got a deal. That's for sure. What do they say? Making baits is the most. I forgot what it said. All right, I'm going to move off. My brain farted here. I want to switch gears for you, Gramps, because your state just slammed a new Indiana state record smallmouth. I know you did a video on that. The video did well, by the way. Good job. Tell us about it for those of us who are not in the area and didn't get that fanfare. Tell us what happened in Indiana.
Well, we had a gentleman named Rex Remington who is going to be on Gramps Live on Thursday night.
Heck yeah.
He's going to be joining us to tell us the story of his 8.3 pound smallmouth new Indiana state record.
By a pound, wasn't it?
Dude, on a lake that's 20 minutes from my house that I absolutely
that's the one you hate. You hate it. I remember that. I wondered if that was a lake because they said it was the largest lake in Indiana, right?
That's the one, dude. The ramp to the dam is 20 minutes from my house. I literally drive 90 minutes anywhere else to fish except for this lake.
Oh, that's so funny. I remember you talking how much you hate it, and it's 20 minutes, and it gets pounded and pounded with tournaments. It's not even known for its smallmouth. It's known for its largemouth, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are some in there. I know maybe 3 people in my entire life that's caught smallmouth there. You know, we do have a more natural lake on the southern end of the state called Patoka that's got some big, 5-6 pound smallies in it. And then the rivers are notorious for having the 20, 22. Josh Schrenko caught his 22 whatever new PB up on the wall, up by Lafayette. So farther north. But this lake, now I have a love-hate relationship with this lake because I think the last big bass tournament that I won as a boater was our state classic, and I caught a 6.87 pound largemouth on a Carolina rig out of Lake Monroe.
Yeah.
But again, I can, if I go to Monroe 20 times a year, I'll catch bigger fish maybe 3 times. If I'm going to catch a 5 or 6 pound bass, it'll be out of Monroe. But for the most part, it's just not worth the effort and time to go when I can go to smaller bodies of water and target and focus on bigger fish. But of course, this dude, and he's going to be on Thursday night to tell us the story of this new state record. Yeah. I mean, if you've seen the picture of it, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of guys know, lake smallmouth get huge because they're not sitting in current, burning all that fat all the time. And, this dude was chunky. But yeah, we're going to have some fun with the new state record holder who was out largemouth fishing, and him and his cousin fish tournaments together. But they're going to come on and tell us the whole show of this. And it's like my friend is the director of the Indiana DNR, and I kept trying to, dude, is this thing real? Yeah. He's like, well, somebody caught a big fish. Has it been certified?
Someone got a big fish.
I'm like, he was just being so coy. He wasn't giving up no juice, and I was like, but. A couple of days later, they had, come out and announced it, and it's on the website. And yeah, I kind of did a video talking a little bit about it, but he's going to come on and share the juice and kind of tell us the whole story of how this monster came to pass. And the fact that this is not the first larger smallmouth he's ever caught there in his 30 years of fishing on Lake Monroe. So it should be a good time for sure.
Is this going to be like the masses are now going to be on Lake Monroe trying to fish for smallmouth.
Which is cool for me. That's fine because JT said he was building a river kayak. So
Yeah, right. I can only imagine the amount of people out there this weekend and next weekend and probably into this.
But I do want to, sometime this summer or whatever, at least, when I get everything built up and we get back from the NC and, as we start into Knucklehead, I still want to come up and hit the rivers up there with you guys and go chase some of these smallies. You know what I'm saying? I want to go learn more about it and be in pursuit of the big smallies you guys have up north too.
Heck yeah. And here's the thing. This is a great thing about this and this story with this guy catching this monster. He released it back. It is swimming around right now on Lake Monroe. Yep. And someone's like, here in the spring, they're thinking, if I can catch that in the spring, it'll be at least a half ounce heavier. And they could take the title right back. That's what they're thinking. There's going to be thousands of people in Lake Monroe. Oh my gosh. So good. All right, Grants, play a little game with me. A little game of underrated, overrated. This should be fun. And two or three of them are fishing. 2 or 3 of them are not. All right. Let's start with a not, just for fun. Underrated, overrated. Libraries.
Libraries?
My wife and I get in arguments about this. Because when I say
the funny thing.
Oh, go ahead.
I guess I still have to say they're underrated because sometimes I'm still as funny as it is. As much as I'm a techie guy, and everybody online and tablets and this and that, I still like to read a paperback book. And I don't buy. My wife buys books and she reads them on her tablet, buys them in paper. But I still have a library card. And maybe once or twice a year when something new is coming out that I really want to read, I'm one of those guys that'll watch a movie once and probably never watch it again.
That's me.
Except for the classics. But for the most part, I'll go to the library and pick up a book and read it, check it out, and then take it back. And so I'm still old school nerd. I gotta have paper in my hand.
I love it. Hey, this is for everybody, not just for Gramps. So I see a couple people typing in their responses. I want to hear everybody. So we got Elizabeth says underrated. Bass Raft says underrated. Cooler Lid AP120 says overrated. And he puts $2 signs next to it. Not sure why it's $2 signs. It's medium expensive, I guess. I don't know. Trevor Wagner says underrated. I'm going to go overrated. Because the way I look at a library is just like, okay, you printed the internet. It's just that's how I look at it. My wife gets so mad at me because I feel like if it's in a book, now I understand there's fiction, nonfiction, all that stuff. But if it's something that's factual, I feel like our society is changing so fast that is now obsolete. So, anyways, I'm gonna get crucified. We're gonna move on to the next one. Let's go to the fishing one. Underrated, overrated. Kayak fishing motors. If you're listening in, I want to hear your thoughts on this as well.
I'm gonna have 2. So we know I was in the autopilot where I had one that kind of did the all and everything, but I'm literally gonna have one for the lakes and one for the rivers. And I gotta say underrated because I'm getting an NK 300.
Oh, you're getting a beast. You're gonna be going like 6.5 miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm a big dude and I'm gonna be fighting current and I ain't trying to paddle it, so I overkilled that thing. But I want I've got a 36 amp hour 60 whatever Dakota lithium that's going to be pushing the juice, and then I've got a 135 amp hour for the XI3 when I'm on the lakes. So I'm gonna make sure I don't have to paddle unless I choose to do so in a creek.
I love it. So that's a 36 volt system. Is the NK300? Is that what that is?
Yeah, and then the NK180 is the 24, I believe.
Right. Yep. Hey, all right, we got Josh Lanham, overpriced.
We said we didn't say anything about everything is overpriced these days. That's just the nature of the beast.
Elizabeth says it's the future. Diggs rated correctly. Brian Rand underrated. Caro Ferg, underrated because she wants one. Stephen Guthrie, underrated. Cooler Lid, underrated. Nuts Pones, rated.
Yeah, he's about even with it.
Yep. Trevor, overrated. Low Life, overrated. My goodness. And then Sly Fox, hey, yak motors just make life
Make
so
sure
much
you get
easier.
George P's post there.
Where's that at? George P. Overrated. Just get a boat already. Laugh out loud.
I have a boat. It sits up the hill. It gets used about twice, 3 times a year when it's cold out and I can't get in a kayak.
I love it. All right, let's move on to the next one. Overrated, underrated. Doomsday prepping.
I can't call it doomsday because when you live in the Midwest where tornadoes could hit or earthquakes, you know, it's you should have ample. I mean, and I'll back up and I'll put this on a serious note because even though doomsday prepping is one thing, but as a father who's responsible for a household,
Okay.
it's your responsibility to have food, water, shelter, heating if it's wintertime, and you know, the ability to hunt or protect your home if need be. So I think doomsday prepping is a code word for husbands to, if their wives aren't into it, you know, to kind of prepare. But I'm blessed to have married an Army medic who knows that you have to be ready for any kind of extreme. So
Yeah.
we're kind of like team when it comes to making sure that, you know, if any, you know, power goes out. We went through an ice storm years ago, where it took all the power out of Indianapolis when we lived in the suburb up there. And there was a lot of people that weren't ready for that and had no way of keeping their food, you know, sustainable and water to drink and things like that too. And you know, we were blessed to kind of be prepared for whatever may happen too. So yeah, doomsday prepping underrated. You gotta take care of your peeps.
All right. Here's some people. Brian Rand, overrated. Elizabeth the overrated. Conspiracy theory nuts. Sly Fox, underrated. Diggs, overrated. Been there, done that. Cooler Lid, extremely underrated. Interesting. Diggs says prepping for a disaster is one thing, prepping for the end of the world, a massive pipe dream. Trevor Wagner says adequately rated. I live in Tornado Alley.
Yep.
Here's what I think. Now, just let everyone know I am a prepper. I don't think I've ever talked about this before. I have about 10 man years. I could stay in my house and be completely fine. I'm all in. And I feel like it's one of those things where like you're the craziest guy in the room until you're the smartest guy in the room, right?
Yeah.
I think our society is more fragile than we believe it to be. That's just me. Anyways, I'm not going to go down that, but I think just we're just extremely fragile. So, and right, I have a family, right? I got kids, and so I have to think about those. I inherited a lot of that stuff, and so I was kind of almost like prepper by default. But nonetheless, I am definitely.
People don't realize how fast the food in the grocery stores and Walmart will be gone should the power go out for say 4 days.
4 days.
When they, I mean, if something were to happen to the grid, and you know electricity's gone, they don't have money because it's all in the ATM machine. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Yep.
Something to think about. Something to think about.
Yep.
It's fun. All right. Overrated, underrated. Inflatable fishing kayaks.
Ooh. You know, I've seen several people with them, and I mean, I think, I mean, I don't know that I would ever own one, but I think they're underrated because I've seen what like Christine Fisher or Jeff Little, you know, some folks who may not have a full size truck but could pack one in a car a little bit easier. I mean, you used to, and it's funny because my dad used to take us fishing when we go camping in a blow up raft, and you know, it seems like forever, you know, he's patching the thing or whatever. But I mean, with the materials that these things are made of these days,
a long way.
The fact that you see like the NRS and the Hobie, you know, whatever's going over like sharp, jagged rocks and things like that. I mean, they're pretty stout. I mean, Jeff Little runs a Torpedo on one for goodness sake. So I think they're underrated. I think that's, you know, for somebody who may not be as involved in it as we are, it's still a good option for somebody who may not have a truck or trailer, things like that too. But they're expensive, but I think that's one of those things that the longer it's out and around, you know how it is, they become more affordable over time.
Yeah. Here's some comments. Diggs says underrated. They have their place in the grand scheme of things. Scott Hanneman says underrated. Love mine. Light, easy, and quick. Love it.
I can see that.
George P says not sure on this one. Never really looked into these. Trevor Wagner, underrated. Sly Fox, NRS, or Bodie inflatables are the best ones.
Yep.
Coolid AP, underrated. There's advantages and disadvantages. Low Life Angus says underrated but overpriced. All right, I go.
Again, everything's overpriced.
Yeah, right. And Sly Fox says really, really underrated. Here's the thing. I don't partner with a lot of companies, but if I had NRS call me up and be like, hey, we want to partner with you on inflatables, their NRS CUDA, I would bite in a hot freaking second. Because here's my issue. I travel from work a lot of times. And like, for instance, I just went to DC for a gala to help serve kids affected by child abuse. It's what I work for. Those of you who didn't know, I work for an organization called Child Help. So check it out, childhelp.org. Nonetheless, I was in a car and I get there a couple of days early. I have the evenings free. And I drove to the airport to get my rental car. And the rental car place is like, hey, you can, they'll pick for you and you get the cheapest options. And sometimes they give me a giant truck. Sometimes they give me a little compact. And so I always throw my throw and go, my Sun Dolphin Aruba 10 in the back of my truck. And when I get there, if the car's big enough, I'll throw it in. And if it's not, it just stays in my truck and I got a bank fish. And if I had an inflatable kayak, that would be a game changer. And I would have been able to explore 2 or 3 lakes I had to stand on the bank and catch nothing on. Just thinking if I had my kayak, I'd be able to go to the places I needed to go to fish right now. And so, man, I'm fine because I have a float tube during the middle of the summer. But if I had an NRS CUDA, oh man, that'd be so awesome. I would have fished that a couple times this past weekend. Scott Hanneman says, I have 2 inflatables. Always welcome also to have an SS127. There you go. See, the NRS, Liz says only $1,000. That might be an option for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool.
We'll see what's going on. NRS inflatable, sweet, but would definitely need an electric air pump. That's for sure. That is for sure. All right, got one more underrated, overrated for you, kind of ending out our time here. If you've not yet done so, please smash that like button for us. Help us get a little bit of extra juice. The old algorithm dislikes those likes. I don't know. They throw it out to more people afterwards. So if you haven't done that, please just take the 2 seconds. All right, Gramps. Having a college education, underrated, overrated?
It's funny because I'm going to sound like a hypocrite on this one. But I mean, I went for decades. Because I work in IT. I started out in the Army as a computer programmer, in the Signal Corps. When I got out of the Army, I had, years of taking, Microsoft and Novell and, all these industry certifications in lieu of a college degree. And I kind of prided myself on having all the same abilities as the people who went to college for, my same career field. But I got to the point where I was in my 30s. I went ahead and pursued my bachelor's degree because it was a personal goal. Both of my parents were adult learners and went to school at night and got their education that way. And I decided to do that too, even though I was in what I thought would be the job that I retired from when I was working at the biggest pharmaceutical company in the Midwest. And I actually went to school on a whim just because it was, like I said, it was a personal goal. And then it turns out that company outsourced me when I was literally years away from retiring. And they dumped almost 1,000 IT workers in the economy in the Midwest.
Ooh.
And me having all of my years of experience, 20 some at the time, plus all my industry certifications, probably 30 plus Microsoft and Cisco and other certifications, me having that bachelor's degree on top of all of that actually got me hired faster than some friends of mine who sat basically on the market for almost a year
Oh, yikes.
and a half. So had I not done that, I would have been hurting and my family would have been hurting a lot more. Even then after that, I pursued a master's degree. Again, not things I needed. And but it was still in my line. And that master's degree in IT security ends up being the deciding factor in the current position I have as an information system security manager. So I think really it depends on your career field. There are
Sure.
people that spend their money to become, literate and write lots of school papers and don't have a real skill to base that off of. And then there's others like me who focus on a specific industry and get our degree that way, and it makes a difference. So it's hard to say underrated or overrated. I think you either need to go into a skilled trade if you want to do that, or you need to be educated into something that can't be outsourced overseas, and something that will, help you actually land a good job. So I mean, there are certain degrees that are worth a whole lot more than others, and I know there's a lot of people that get degrees in things that are useless or are not as useful in today's economy, and they end up with $150,000, $200,000 in debt, but a job that can't pay that degree. But I always encourage it, or working in the skilled trades, or going to school to learn a skilled trade, so you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. No, here we go. Let's see what everyone else has to say here. Kara over, Brian over, Sly Fox overrated, and it goes trade schools. Josh Lanham over, Cooler Lid AP over, nothing but a debt trap. I think it's supposed to be a B. Elizabeth overrated. I have 2. Kara says need blue collar folks badly. All right,
That's the
Sly Fox.
problem. Kids
Yeah.
won't get off their asses and go work these days.
No,
So, I mean, the people who are going to go out and learn HVAC and the trades, you're going to make a killing, because the older generation is getting ready to retire. And, you have to have manual labor workers. But it seems like, I don't know if it's how we're raising our kids or what these days, but people just do not want to go forth and work. And then honestly, too, are you going to beat your body up for 50 plus years to make what? $40,000? I mean, where are you going to be at the end of the day? Have a plan. I mean, and make sure your kids have a plan too.
YouTube.
It's yeah, like Liz said, become a plumber. I swear those dudes print money, and guys like me will pay for quality plumbing work, electric work.
Yeah.
I will pay, because I don't want to crawl under my house and cut. I can, but I choose not to anymore. I would rather pay somebody who knows what they're doing.
No, I hear you. I hear there. It's interesting. I was reading an article, and I just brought it up while you were talking, and it's U.S. companies increasingly eliminate college degrees. So American companies like Walmart, IBM, Accenture, Bank of America, and Google announced plans to reduce the number of jobs that require college degrees. They're just not requiring college degrees anymore. And here's another one. You no longer need a college degree to work at these 7 companies: Okta, Dell, Google, Delta Airlines. And so the landscape is changing. It's fascinating. But yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, even IT workers. I mean, I went through a 2-year data processing class in high school. Then I joined the Army and learned that skill. And then I also learned, got certifications and all that too. I mean, I could have had a successful career in computer technology, doing the same thing, but you can do the same thing as an electrician, HVAC. People who frame houses. I mean, electricians will be able to write their own check, as long as plumbers and others that work in those skilled trades. But, always encourage your kids to, if they're really gifted at something, that's understandable, but you can only have so many lawyers and paper pushers.
Matt's fishing mission just chimed in. He says, I'm sacrificed my body in the creek for $3 a video. Totally worth it. At this point, I'm fishing to fuel my coffee addiction. I love it. I always believe that if you know a trade and you're really good at it, and all you got to do is show up, and you can print money. You just show up, name your price, print money, because it's hard to get someone just to freaking show up nowadays. It's wild.
It's almost hard to believe. Yeah,
it really is. Well, let's land this plane a little bit, Gramps. I want to hear. We didn't even talk about Knucklehead. Well, I'll have to have you back on the show to talk Knucklehead, because we're a little bit out from that. But bunch of changes this year. I already got a few people signed up for my team, so I'm excited. Everybody's doing it in May this year, so hopefully I have a good time. But We'll circle back. I'll be back on the show to talk about that. But
Oh,
what
yeah.
are some changes? What are some changes you got going on for your own channel? Tell the world, what should we expect? You alluded to it a little bit with smallmouth and creek fishing, but anything else that we should be aware of?
I mean, really, I think I want to get back this year. Yeah, I'm going to get back to having a little more fun. Um, I do have some goals. I mean, I did a lot of tournament stuff to kind of draw attention to like some of our local tournament stuff and even like the KBF stuff.
Mhm.
And I actually have on a playlist some videos that I have of why I like to tournament fish outside of like the competition, because there's a lot of I love the fact that it's a great way to go meet other people who enjoy the same passion that we have. And the one thing I love about kayak tournament anglers is we're not cutthroat like the boating world where nobody tells anybody anything or what you're catching them on or what you're doing. We do it, it's more of a community. And so
Right.
that's really fun. But I'm actually backing away from a lot of that this year. Sure, we're going to go do the national championship. We're obviously going to do the knucklehead thing again because that is just such a
Oh my
blast. We had a
gosh.
great time last year. And it was a great way to gather everyone to gather. Chad actually launched all the knucklehead teams, and I was like, I really wasn't even going to start talking about that to like mid-April. You know, we've got the NC coming up, which again, I'm not going to go. I'm not trying to go win that and beat the pros. I like to go meet everybody. I like to, hang out with the crowds of people. Honestly, my goal at the NC is to catch a 22-inch bass. We had you go down there and smack one. Daniel went down there and smack one. Jermaine caught a big one. I caught a lot of good fish, but I'm still looking for that, that new PB. You know what I'm saying?
Heck yeah.
So, that's kind of like my goal, and but we're gonna get out and chase some smallies this year because that is just like my newfound, you just got to go do it. And then catching that 19 and a half as the last fish I caught out of my old town. I'm on that quest for a 20-incher now. And they've just kind of got me enthralled. And it's just like I just got to go do it. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be doing a lot of rigging videos because we're switching gears and
Oh yeah.
doing all that. But I do have some. I would like to go fish a Bassmaster event just to say that I've done one,
Yep.
and I'd like to really do the one that's up on the Susquehanna River because that's like the Smalley capital river of the country. And
You better pick
I'm
me
just
up on the way there, by the way. You can't drive past me
and
to
just
get up
having a
to
blast.
you can't pass me on the way to the Susquehanna and then not pick me up along the way.
Oh, hey, 100%.
Come on. Make some room. Make some room. Well, folks, thank you so much. If you haven't hit that like button or haven't subscribed to, it's funny. I have a ton of people who like write me all the time, and we can see, by the way, in the comments if you're a subscriber or not a subscriber. And I feel like I've had like 90,000 conversations with people who are not subscribed to the channel. It's like, what's going on? What's the disconnect here? And I'll be honest with you, I'm to the point now where I've lost the I always want to get back to everybody, and sometimes I just lost the ability to. I think this past month I had like 300,000 views. So comments are rolling in. And so when I don't have time to get through them all, I just invest in the people that have invested in my channel. And so I just go through the subscribers and I'll respond to those because they have said, hey, I'm more invested than someone just kind of rolling through. So if you want to get more videos and get those kind of coming through your stream, hit that subscribe button for Gramps. I know he is on his own live tonight as well on his channel.
Yep.
So hit those. We'd love to continue to get those out. Guys, I am on spring break next week with my family. So we are not going to have a live next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. But the following week, I have the Baitman TV. So Kevin the Baitman Baxter,
Oh,
I'm going to have the man on. So that's going to be a good one. So I'm
yes,
excited.
Kevin's a great guy to have on.
Heck yeah. So that's going to be a good times. But Gramps, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. We'll have you on again.
Glad for be here, man. I can't wait to do it again. We got to keep these up all throughout the season. These are awesome.
Heck yeah. All right, man. Well, thank you. Everyone have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you in a couple weeks at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the Kayak Fishing Obsessed podcast. Thanks, everyone. See ya.